how to get paid for taking care of a disabled family member in Florida. First of all, you're not automatically entitled to get paid just because you have a family member who's disabled. There is a Medicaid program in Florida called Medicaid waiver that will allow family members to care for their disabled or elderly loved one. And this is typically through what's called the PDO program. So we're assuming for a second that your loved one, your disabled loved one, is already eligible for Medicaid. They meet the financial criteria and they're either disabled or over the age of 65. Okay, that's what you need. The financial criteria is less than $2,000 essentially to your name, and you have to be below the income cap, which changes from year to year. And then there's a waitless process. You submit an application, and you then eventually get approved, hopefully. If you are not financially eligible for Medicaid, that is where a law firm like ours can do wonders for you, because we have legal and ethical ways to get you or your loved one eligible for Medicaid without having to wait 5 years, without having to sell your house, without having to go broke, right? Without having, so that's why people call us, among other things. But let's assume for a second that you're eligible for Medicaid, or you work with a firm like ours to get you, use strategies to protect your assets and get you eligible for Medicaid. You are enrolled in the Medicaid waiver program, and you will pick a managed care organization. Medicaid in Florida subcontracts the actual maintenance of Medicaid to these different organizations. And some of them are very big marquee names like United and Humana and Aetna and Sunshine Health and Florida Community Cares. There's like these big kajillion-dollar companies that many people have already heard of, and they are the ones who are your Medicaid provider. So once you pick one of these providers, what they typically will do is they'll give you a list of home care agencies that they contract with, and then they will pay those agencies for however many hours of home health care you or your disabled family member has been approved for after they were enrolled in the Medicaid waiver program. But what you would do if you want a family member to get paid is you'd say, no, I don't want to go through an agency. I want to go through the PDO program, the participant directed option. That's what you will tell your Medicaid case manager. And the only restrictions to the PDO program are the person you choose, the family member or friend or whoever you choose, has to be able to legally work in the United States, and they have to pass a level 2 background check. They're going to be fingerprinted and go through a background screening process. That's essentially it. Other than that, it can be a spouse, it can be a child, it can be a cousin, a friend, an uncle, a niece, whoever. Anyone you want can be paid for the number of hours that the Medicaid waiver program has approved you for. Be aware that the PDO program doesn't pay particularly well. You don't get to choose your hourly rate. They will tell you what their hourly rate is. What I typically see is $11 an hour for unskilled work, and I think they go up to something like $30 or $35 an hour for skilled work, like cleaning tubes and where you would normally have to hire a nurse, not for things like bathing or eating or cooking and toileting and things like that. But for skilled work, they will approve a slightly higher rate. So that's how a family member can get paid for taking care of an elderly or disabled family member. Now, let's rewind a second. Let's say you're saying to yourself, well, I have assets. I have more than $2,000 to my name. What can I do then? Well, one thing is you could, of course, naturally spend down all of your money, and when you are more indigent, when you really run out of money, then you will be financially eligible. Or you can contact a law firm like ours, and we have a variety of legal and ethical strategies to protect your assets in a way that makes you eligible for Medicaid. We don't hide anything. We tell Medicaid exactly what it is that we did with the assets and why still under state and federal law, you or your loved one's entitled to be eligible for this Medicaid waiver program to get help paying for home health care. I bring that up because one of those tools is something called a personal services contract, right? If you have assets, this is for people, the eventual Medicaid applicant, they have assets, they don't want to give it away, they don't want to wait 5 years. I mean, they can't give it away. I should say that, but they don't want to kind of naturally spend down their money they want to protect their money. Well, one tool is something called a personal services contract, where you can actually pay a family member after a contract is signed. It doesn't work retroactively, so the contract has to be signed, it has to be prepared properly, it has to be Medicaid compliant. So you can't just, this is not something you do on the back of a napkin and hope for the best. There's a very, very specific terminology needed for a personal services contract. But if it's laid out properly, then in advance of applying for Medicaid, the Medicaid applicant can pay a lump sum amount to a family member, but not their spouse. It can be a child, it can be any other family member or friend, or whoever is actually helping them out, taking care of them. The personal services contract, sometimes also referred to as a family caregiver agreement, can help out. So these are when people are looking for ways to get paid for taking care of a disabled or elderly family member. What they're typically referring to is the personal services contract if the Medicaid applicant has assets, and then after they are eligible for Medicaid, right, they either naturally don't have assets or we've done our work to protect them with our law firm, then they can enroll in that PDO program, which will kind of pay as they go for the extra work. So I hope that clears that up. And if you have any questions, if you are anywhere in Florida or your loved ones anywhere in Florida, you want to talk more about how to get them onto Medicaid, how to get a family member paid for taking care of a loved one, please schedule a consultation. Thank you very much.